Hello there, ladies, gents, and all of you Turkish chappies who are watching this video because I put your country in the video. That's right, today we have the nation of Turkey trying to fight off the entire world in Hearts of Iron 4. Now, is it possible? Well, I will be going through several stages of buffing the country to see roughly at what point of buffs and bonuses is the country actually able to survive. And I will be rating it against my previous country versus the world games. This includes my Russia versus the world and United States versus the world. And I think you might actually be pleasantly surprised to see which country is actually stronger out of the three. And away we go. See, it only seems smart to start with Turkey, really. And this is a standard game. They have no buffs. There is nothing going in their favour. They're just at war with the entire world. They're currently facing off against several million manpower, just kind of throwing themselves at their borders, and with only 11 divisions to defend with, yeah, it's not going to be Turkey's lucky day, really. So Russia comes in from the right and Iraq from the south and Greek, and most of the Europeans also come in from the left. The Greeks do land an early naval invasion with the support of the British Navy, and also for some reason the Soviets make a naval invasion in the south. Hats off to them for doing so. Anyway, the Soviets have managed to kind of cut off part of the army up in the north of Turkey there, you can see, and they've also managed to win yet another encirclement. The Soviet army is so large they are just able to cut off the small pockets of Turkish divisions. The Turks simply just don't have enough of a mobilized army to defend their border. And there you go, they get capitulated and turned into a puppet of the Russians. This is the second game in which Turkey has all level 1 buffs of the Easy Buff Plus mod. This makes them 10% better in every regard. Now, 10% might be enough to win the game for them, but will it be? Will it really be? Because, you know, they are getting kind of pushed from the right again by the Soviets, however, not as fast, you might notice. They are holding completely in the left. It's just in the right where they're losing a lot of ground. They just don't seem to have any troops positioned there. They do manage to defend against a naval invasion, but that's all she wrote, because the Greeks make a push through Istanbul or Constantinople in the north, and they make their way towards the Turkish capital. Real shame there, Turkey, you did get fully encircled and once again a puppet of the Soviets. Now, as we get into our second game, I've decided to give you a few facts about what Turkey got up to in the war and the strength of the Turkish military. Now, the Turkish military was split into three key parts. You had the infantry and ground forces, you had the air force, and you had the naval forces. Now, the naval forces were by far the weakest of all of the Turkish military, comprising mostly of just one large cruiser which was built in 1911. So yeah, it was quite old and it definitely wasn't functioning to defend Turkey. The Turkish Air Force, however, was actually surprisingly on point. It had 139 planes in 1937, and Turkey intended to increase the size of the Air Force to 300 by 1938. They had 300 trained pilots and often sent off even more pilots to Britain to train. The Turkish military, however, was by far the largest and tasked with defending Turkey. However, surprisingly, no time came for it to need to do so. And in this game, I'm afraid Turkey has lost. Right, as Turkey's lost this, I think it's important before we move into the level 3 game to mention that when America was given level 3 boosts, America did not manage to get a world conquest. This, however, is Turkey. And if there's one thing I know about Turkey, is that the people of Turkey really have a large brigading power. So immediately you might notice that Turkey is not going to take this invasion sat down. With level 3 bonuses, they've managed to pump out, and they're up to 40 divisions now deployed onto the field. Make that now 60. And with that, they're pushing south and grabbing quite a lot of the oil supply of Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Now, what can they do with an oil supply? Well, you know that Air Force I was talking about, which historically wasn't too powerful but not too shabby. Well, guess what? It just got kickstarted and it is now the second largest Air Force in the world. I mean, that is mostly thanks to the bonuses, but also the fact that the Turks have managed to grab quite a few military factories on their conquests. Now Turkey is kind of pushing downwards into a lot of Africa and grabbing quite a lot of land. However, World War II has just broken out and the Allies will soon attack Germany. Now that should provide the distraction that Turkey needs, because whilst the Allies are busy attacking Germany, they won't be defending Africa. And that just allows Africa to fall into Turkey's lap. Oh my, what an interesting attack. Good God, Turkey, you've done really well here. Now, for some reason, Bulgaria invaded Romania and managed to grab it alongside Portugal. Oh, and here we go, the Allies have begun their invasion of Germany. Austria is actually leading the charge. That's something you don't expect to see all the time, but hey. Turkey is just finishing up in Africa now, and they're beginning a push into the Caucasus region of the Soviet Union, also known as the oil-rich regions of the Soviet Union. Should the Soviet Union lose that oil, the Soviet Union will not be able to maintain its massive military might. Oh, and look at that, they've got an interesting loop battle plan set up there as they try and attack Iran from the north, but hey, you know, that's their strategy, not mine. So the push into the Soviet Union is kind of getting held back, but it is making some slow advances. Africa is now completely Turkish, and whilst there was just then a brief naval invasion by the French, it's basically nothing they need to worry about. Turkey is in full control of the African continent, and now with Iran gone, they can do a two-fronted push into the Soviet Union, and they've retaken Istanbul and are now making headway in Europe. They've capitulated Bulgaria, picked up Romania, now they've just got to fight off Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Greece and Albania. Can they do so? Well, you'd be right, they can. And that there was the first nuclear bomb being dropped by Turkey. The first nuclear bomb was dropped on Italy, if you can believe it, so wow, I mean, they didn't capitulate, so that actually kind of tells you something about the Italians that I never really expected. Anyway, the Turks have now made a push, and they're almost at Moscow now. God, this is quite a powerful push. And of course, Crimea, it is now theirs. Afghanistan, however, is proving to be a little more tricky, same with India, but that's to be expected. It's not really easy for any major power to take Afghanistan. Oh, and look, the Turkish people have grabbed Berlin, and they're now on their way to grabbing France and Italy. Oh my. Oh, and Denmark and Sweden. Well, farewell Stockholm, you tried your best, but this is Turkey we're talking about. They're not going to take your kind of shiz. Come on, mate, they are genuinely, oh my God, all of Europe has fallen. And Turkey there just separate pieced out the Axis powers and puppeted all of them. Ah, and they've now decided to become the Ottoman Empire. Well, you know, Turkey, good job. That was an interesting play there. Oh, and they separate pieced out for some reason the British Raj and are now attacking it again. Oh, well, anyway, I think it's safe to say right now that the Turks did it. With level 3 buffs, they did what the Americans couldn't, and they did a world conquest. But what happens if we turn it up to the highest buffs possible? This is Turkey with the largest amount of bonuses I could physically give it. Let's see how it does, ladies and gents. Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. Turkey is officially stronger than the United States, and if you'd like to see a much more analytical history video about it, then watch my video here. Alternatively, if you want to watch Russia versus the world or the United States versus the world, then you can see it over here. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and consider subscribing. See ya.